Everyone, welcome back to Homestead Corner. Today I have got 11 essential pantry items that I think are must-haves in our prepper pantries. So these are 11 items that I think are absolute must-haves in your pantry. And not only in your everyday working pantry, but also your prepper pantry. We should all keep good, large supplies of these items because they are must-haves for living and surviving in crazy times. So I was digging through the pantry and thought I would share the things that I think we absolutely must have and in our pantries, and these are in no particular order. They're just, I think they all are essential. We have to have them. So the first thing that I have on my list here is baking soda. Baking soda has so many uses. You can use it for cleaning, you can use it for your teeth, you can use it for all sorts of stuff. You can level off the pH and stuff. You can use it for so many different things. It is an absolute must-have. And to store this, we keep it right in this sealed bag while it is being stored. Once I open it, this has a zipper seal, so then I can just seal it up each time we use it. But and if I have containers that don't have zipper seals, I will put them in mason jars or something like that while we're working through a big container like this, because this is a lot of baking soda. But baking soda is a must for your baking, for all sorts of things. It really has so many purposes. I would not want to live without baking soda. So the next thing along with baking soda is baking powder. You can use it to rise your breads. It's used in tons of recipes. Baking powder is a must-have, and I like to buy it in small containers. This only has about a 1-year shelf life before it goes flat. A lot of times it will go a little past that, but not a lot. So we keep it right in the sealed containers and just store them. You want to make sure that your containers are sealed up really good. Once it's opened, we blow through one of these cans pretty quickly, so it works out nice using this size. You can get it in bigger sizes if you use a lot more of it, but I find this works just perfect for us. The next thing is another baking item that we absolutely love, and that is yeast. We keep yeast in the freezer, and I buy big bags of it. Every now and then I'll pick up one of these jars, but a lot of times I'll take it from the big 1-pound package and pour it in here while we're using it. So in the freezer, your yeast is going to last, but if your freezer goes down, not so much. But yeast is great for all those breads and things like that you want to make, dinner rolls, anything that you want to cook up bread-wise. Yeast is wonderful. And the next thing is flour. And I like to keep the unbleached all-purpose flour is usually what I buy. And that's what we use the most of in our house. Once the container is opened, it goes into a mason jar, and I keep these mason jars right on the counter. If you've seen any of my cooking videos, you've seen them. These half-gallon mason jars make wonderful canisters. And I don't use a sealed top on it because we blow through this pretty quick, a half-gallon of it. And we also keep wheat. We want to keep the wheat on hand as well. You grind it, and then we can put it in there. So if we're grinding it fresh for anything, but we don't grind it until we're ready to use it because it goes bad pretty quickly once you grind it from this state. So, because it has 0 preservatives in it and it is just wheat. So it's not going to last quite as long. So we just leave it in these containers when we get them. I like these are from the LDS store. They have the best deal that I have found on wheat berries. And the shipping is affordable, and per pound it's affordable. So when we get these in, we just store them just like this. We don't do anything to it. And once I open it, I leave it right in this container because we're just going to go right through it. Once it's ground, goes in here, and we use it. So simple and easy. If I have previously purchased large 25-pound bags of it, and a lot of times it comes in a burlap sack, and you're going to want to make sure that you seal those up. Cool, dark, dry, and airtight. The next thing that I think is a must-have is salt. And we like to keep various kinds of salt in the house. I normally use pink salt for all of my cooking, most of my everyday stuff. We also keep canning salt. We keep sea salt. We have some of this iodized salt. In this container, I would repackage this because the cardboard containers are just not going to last. I'm not going to store this like this. I'm going to put it in a glass jar, or I'm going to seal it in a Mylar bag or something. I want to be able to keep that moisture out of there. And this is going to keep the light out and all that, but it's not going to keep moisture out because it is a cardboard box. So this I would repackage, but normally in my buckets, I don't repackage my salt. I just put it right in the bag, in the bucket. You can see we've got all kinds of stuff in there. It's all salt, different kinds. We just put it right in the bucket. But I like to make sure that I have a nice airtight lid. If I'm not repackaging, I want an airtight lid on my bucket. And this has got a rubber seal in it. So when I close this, no air is going to get in there. So I've got it airtight. If I didn't have one of these airtight lids and I had one of these like cheap Walmart lids, these are not airtight lids. I would put that into Mylar bags and then put it in the bucket. And you'll see when you watch my videos anytime, I package things a lot of different ways. I don't have one set way to do it. We use glass jars, we use mason jars, we use buckets, we use Mylar bags, we do all sorts of stuff. And it depends on what I have on hand at the moment, how I can package it for long-term storage. Just because I need a bucket doesn't mean I have one on hand. I don't always have extra buckets. I try to keep some extra, but I don't always have them. And so sometimes it will go into a glass jar, a mason jar. I'll vacuum seal it in there. Sometimes it will go in a Mylar bag and it'll go in a bucket or in a tote. Or if this was in Mylar bags, this regular cheap lid would be perfectly fine. But where they're in the individual packages, I like to make sure I have a nice airtight lid with the seal on my salt. And the same goes for sugar. When I do sugar, I do it the exact same way. I'll leave it right in the package and just put it in a bucket with an airtight lid. If I don't have airtight lids, I will put it in a Mylar bag or mason jars, whatever we have on hand. We use what we have. I'm not running out to buy something because I have plenty of stuff. I just have to dig around, and it may not be what I want at the moment, but it works. So that is salt. And sugar is next on the list because I think sugar is really important. It is also a great preservative. When you make jellies, you will notice that you don't really need anything else in there. The fruit is pretty high acid, but you've got so much sugar in there, nothing can live in it. It's going to preserve those fruits in your jellies and stuff. So making sure you have plenty of sugar on hand or whatever sweetener that you like. I like to use real sugar, but you can really use anything. We also keep honey as a sweetener because we love that, and we have bees, so it's affordable for us. The sugar and the salt, we store them the same way. No oxygen absorbers. I never put one in there because it compresses everything, and then you've got to break it apart, and it's really hard like a brick. So we just close them up airtight. That's good enough. So the next item is rice. I love to have rice on hand. It is an excellent belly filler. It's excellent to stretch out your food that you have in your food storage. You can take a can of soup, and instead of feeding 2 people, you could feed 4 or 5 people by putting it over a bed of rice. You can really stretch that out, which is nice. So rice, I think, is a must-have. If you can't eat rice, I know some people can't. definitely go with like a quinoa or something like that, some kind of ancient grain that you can eat. You want to have a good supply of that. And the next thing on the list that are absolute must-haves are beans and lentils. You can see they're stored two different ways. It really is what I have on hand. Both ways are perfectly fine. In buckets, I put big, large quantities in buckets. Whatever we have on hand at the moment. So if I do them like this, like these lentils, there are 6 pounds here, I think. Yeah, 6 pounds of brown lentils. A bunch of these, I will take these bags and put them in a tote or a bucket or something, because mice can easily get through this bag. You want to make sure that you are rodent proofing your food supply as well as getting the air out of it. So this has an oxygen absorber in it. You can see it sucked in a little bit, not quite all the way, but that's okay. And this is just sealed up and ready for the pantry. And we just throw these in a bucket or a tote or whatever we have. So the little mice, if they get in the house, they cannot chew through this bag, because this is really easily chewed through. If you just chuck these into your food pantry, you could definitely have some trouble. Glass jars are another great way to go. I don't use an oxygen absorber in these, but I do have a silica gel pack in there, just in case there was any kind of moisture when I packaged it, if it was a more humid day or anything like that. I just chuck them in there. We buy a whole bunch of those, keep them in the pantry, and then when we're packaging food, we've got them. And big packs of them are really inexpensive. So, or you can make them yourself. There's all sorts of stuff you can do to make this more inexpensive for you when you're storing food. So all kinds of different beans. We love beans anyway, and they are great protein. And with your rice, they're going to give you that complete protein that you need. So in a survival situation. So definitely beans and lentils. And lentils, because they are so much easier to cook. They only take about 15-20 minutes. You can put them in the pot with your rice. It's really easy. And they've got that good protein in them, just like a bean. The next thing on my list is shelf-stable eggs. I think these are so important. You can get a bunch of different kinds. A whole bunch of companies sell it. Shelf-stable eggs, they really are, they help in the kitchen. I have my own chickens, so in the summertime and when they're laying, I am using fresh eggs because they're my favorite. And that's the whole reason I have chickens. But having these on hand in the winter time, we use these a lot more because these are wonderful for scrambled eggs, for omelets, for baking, anything like that. I love these eggs. They are my absolute favorite out of all the freeze-dried eggs. So we keep them in the pantry all the time. And I wouldn't want to be without them when my chickens aren't laying. And the next thing on the list is some sort of powdered milk. I'm partial to the Thrive Life. I really like the flavor of it. My family can't tell when it is chilled. Once it's chilled in the fridge, they cannot tell that it's instant milk and not fresh from the store. So we love this powdered milk, but I used to keep Nido on hand. It doesn't have a long shelf life though. That was my problem with it. It tastes pretty good for a whole milk, but it doesn't really have a long shelf life, and this Thrive Life has a 25-year shelf life. I love that. I don't have to worry about it. It's there, and I don't have to rotate it or do anything to it. It just comes all sealed up, and those come in these are small pantry cans about the size of a coffee can, and a standard coffee can, and then they also have the number 10 cans as well, and they're called family cans. And last but not least, definitely, this is another really, really important one, is your fats and oils. I like to keep lard in the house. I save my bacon grease to cook in because it's delicious. We keep olive oil all the time in the house. And also, I can butter for the pantry. I know a lot of people are concerned about that, and that's okay. Using what's comfortable for you is what is most important. Some people will take all the milk solids out of here and make a ghee, and that is fine also. I'm partial to my salted butter though. I really like it. So I can it just like this. This is from 2020, and we're still eating it. It's okay. We're finishing up that last little round of that before we move into the next batch. But olive oil also, we love to cook with it. It's got a high smoke point, so we have to cook outside on the fire. It works really well out there as well. So I try to think about that stuff, how I'm going to cook my food, what's going to work for me, and make sure that we have those things available. And I am very lucky that we like the things that work on the fire really well. And that is it for my 11 essential prepper pantry items. I think everybody should have these in their long-term storage, and so we are prepared when we need to go to our food pantry for that emergency food. There are all kinds of reasons to have a food pantry, making sure that we have what we need. And there are those times where emergencies happen. I can't tell you how many people have been saved by their food pantry because they lost their job. I have. Business closes, you lose your job. That's the way it goes. And having that food pantry saved us. I know lots of people that have also become very sick and weren't able to go anywhere for months on end, and they were able to survive with their food pantry. And in case of all different sorts of disasters, if the grid goes down, the stores are closed, whatever could happen, and lots of things can happen, that's for sure, being prepared for it is only going to help you and your family. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.